All right, last question. 3 pieces of advice to entrepreneurs. What are your 3 pieces? I'm an entrepreneur, so you can share them with me.
Okay.
How would you advise me?
Well, first of all, I really need to give some thought to like, how can I provide advice that would be most helpful? And I'm not sure I've given enough thought to that to give you the best possible answer. But I think certainly being focused on something that you're confident will have high value to someone else, and just being really rigorous in making that assessment, because people tend to, a natural human tendency is wishful thinking. So a challenge for entrepreneurs is to say, well, what's the difference between really believing in your ideals and sticking to them versus pursuing some unrealistic dream that doesn't actually have merit? And that is a really difficult thing to tell. Can you tell the difference between those two things?
Right.
You know? So you need to be sort of very rigorous in your self-analysis. I think certainly extremely tenacious, and then just work like hell. I mean, you just have to put in, 80 to 100-hour weeks every week.
Gosh.
And
That's
then
a lot of work.
all those things improve the odds of success.
Okay.
I mean, if other people are putting in 40-hour work weeks and you're putting in 100-hour work weeks, then even if you're doing the same thing, you know that in 1 year you will achieve what they achieve. You will achieve in 4 months what it takes them a year to achieve.
How would you describe yourself? What are the main attributes you have from your point of view?
How I describe myself? Well, I mean, I seem to have a high innate drive, and that's been true even since I was a little kid. I really had a very strong drive. Sort of did all sorts of risky things when I was a kid that why did I do those things? They're crazy. So I think that's very helpful. And I care a lot about the truth of things and trying to understand the truth of things. I think that's important. If you're going to come up with some solution, then the truth is really, really important, I think. I try to think of. I mean, it's difficult to obviously come up with things that are praise for oneself, or there's bad and good here, but. I think sometimes they're just the things that seem quite clear and obvious to me, and I don't understand why they aren't so obvious to everyone.
So would you describe yourself as fearless? I mean, are there areas when you seek people for advice, and who would you ask for?
I wouldn't say I'm fearless. In fact, I think I feel fear quite strongly. But if what we're doing is, if what I'm doing is, I think is important enough, then I just override the fear.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's not as though I feel it like more strongly than I would like.
And in which areas would you never go full risk if you still are fearful?
Well, it really depends on the stakes. If the stakes are high, if it's really important, then I will overcome the fear and just do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, I mean, I just drive overrides fear, but I feel the fear. It's kind of annoying. I wish I didn't.
Okay.
I wish I felt it less.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah. All these introspective questions are interesting. I don't get to ask these very often. And then, like, I'm trying to think, like, what is like an accurate reply? And some of these, it's hard to evaluate yourself on these things.
Mm-hmm.
Which company you founded was the most risky at the start?
Well, probably SpaceX. I thought it had the lowest chance of success. I mean, I thought both Tesla and SpaceX would fail at the beginning.
You thought?
Yeah,
So?
sure.
Really?
Of course.
But nevertheless, you put all your money in that, in both.
I expected to lose it. Well, technically, what I thought was, well, I'll take half the money from PayPal, and if I lose half of it, that's okay. But then, of course, the companies encounter difficulties, and then I have a choice of either let the company die or put, all the money into the companies. And so I really didn't want the companies to die, so I put all the money in the companies.
Yeah.
And then I had to borrow money from friends to pay living expenses.
Yes. And what went through your mind at the end of 2008 when the fourth and the last rocket started? What were your thoughts at that time?
It was a terrible time.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything was going wrong at once. 3 rocket failures in a row in the beginning, and Tesla financing round was falling apart, or fell apart. The Solar City was having difficulties, getting divorced.
Yeah.
It was really terrible.
Yeah.
So I was very sad.
But then everything was perfect when
Well, it
the
took a
rocket
while.
was in space.
Yeah, at the end of 2008, the 4th launch worked,
Yes.
which is that was all the money we had, but nothing more. In fact, originally I budgeted. I thought, okay, we can do 3, survive 3 failures. So we just barely scraped together enough to do a 4th launch.
Mm.
And then at the end of 2008, we got a big NASA contract, literally on December 23rd, I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah. So it went from really terrible to, I remember that Sunday before Christmas in 2008 thinking this is the closest I've ever come to a nervous breakdown. I never thought I would ever be someone who could have a nervous breakdown. And I didn't, but it was like, I could see it. I was within sight of it. It was like, this sucks. This is terrible. And then the next morning, NASA called and said that we'd won this $1.5 billion.
The next morning.
Yeah, the next morning. Literally, I was at home, and I thought they'd all gone home for the holidays. I didn't think that. I would have said there was no chance of a call a few days before Christmas. I thought people would be on vacation and that kind of thing. So,
1.5 billion.
Yeah.
So what went through your mind when they called you? What do you feel?
That was awesome. I actually said to the NASA guys that I love you. I don't think they've gotten that response before. So that was, the Monday morning, and then I think it was the Tuesday night or the Wednesday night was when we closed the financing round for Tesla, and that was 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve. It was the last hour of the last day when it was possible, and we would have gone bankrupt a few days after Christmas if if that round had not closed.
Yeah.